Well, friends, welcome to the session on obtaining and selecting offers. When we talk of obtaining and selecting offers, the key focus is to get it right. You all know very well that once the contract is made, the first thing is to make the decision whom to give, whom to award the contract, and then the next comes how to manage the contract. So we'll not be focusing much on the managing of the contract, but we'll be focusing on how to make it right upfront. So that's the focus around. Now, in this whole game, what we are going to talk about is trying to talk about the key terms. A lot of terms are there, like subject like offer, somebody says tenders, somebody says quotation, somebody says bid. We'd like to make clarification on that part. Then we'll also walk around what are the key dimensions, which are the driving dimensions, which drives us different methodologies around. We can't have one size for all, keep that factor in mind. Then we'll talk about different approaches for different categories around. Now, when I talk of categories, I'm talking of 2 by 2 matrix. So in the 2 by 2 matrix, you have seen we talked about in the earlier session as well. There are 4 groups. Are we talking of routine items? Different approach to select and obtain offer. It's a leverage items, different approach. It's a bottleneck item, different approach. Critical item, different approach. So that's what we're going to walk through then. Then we'll also work around the methods of obtaining offers. How do I obtain offers? And then what criteria I should have to evaluate the offers. So again, the subject criteria words comes up as we had in the previous session. But here the criteria is about how to evaluate the offers itself. I'm not evaluating the supplier, but evaluating the offer itself. Another thing all the time comes, how many suppliers to invite? Some people will say more the merrier, like in public sectors. The whole world is invited. That's why it takes you 6 months, 1 year before you can finalize the contract. But sometime in the private sector is very pre-qualified, pre-selected. Only those people are invited around. But in this whole chain of discussions, we'll talk about the nuts and bolts of the process, what goes into this. Well, with this, friends, I want to welcome you again to this very interesting session on obtaining and selecting offers. So agenda today is understand the key terms for obtaining offers, the key dimensions that influence how to obtain and select suppliers, learn the approaches for each of the 4 categories, methods of obtaining offers, criteria to evaluate offers, how many suppliers to invite. This is a very good question, but we'll walk through it, and the nuts and bolts of the process around. So in short, the objective is to enlighten you on the process to select the suppliers for award of contract. So same thing has been put in a very pictorial form. What method to use, when to use, how many suppliers, how to evaluate and use different methods effectively. Let me walk through the terminology first. Because some place we use the word offer, some place we use the word tender, some place bid, some place quotation, some place proposal. I know each company may have its own meaning behind some of the term, but let me give in a very generic way. Offer is an offer, like you give offer to someone, then other has the right to accept or reject. Even your purchase order is an offer. Supplier may accept or reject. So offer is nothing but you're offering someone. The guy who offers is called offerer, another is called offeree. So it has a choice for acceptance and rejection. Now, another one comes the tender. Now, this term is coming mostly from the British colonial time, but means basically a formal offer in a sealed envelope. I know many of you may be thinking the sealed envelope you may not have seen nowadays, but in the public sector, slowly it is going away, but it used to be sealed, literally a seal. Somebody has to check the seal before you open it. So that's a very formal offer. It can't be opened before a particular date. The next term comes with a bid. The bid is associated with making offers at auctions. You do auctions around. Auctions could be reverse auctions, could be forward auctions, and that's where people try to bid it. Okay, I'm going to bid for this. This is what they mean. Quotation is very informal, very semi-formal. You send an email or on the phone, can you send me the quotation? So quotation is normally for low values, very small inquiries, very semi-formal process, or I will say totally informal process. Even I'll go to that extent, calling as an informal process. The proposal is we talk to somebody, then we'll say, guys, can you send me some proposal? So proposal is like a solution. Send me the solution. How this is going to be done, how this is going to be managed. So that's what we call the solution. I hope this clarifies the various terms because these will be used very interchangeably in the whole session. Now, before you start the whole process, be sure that you have the authority to purchase. You're trying to obtain, you're trying to select the offers, but be sure that you have the authority to purchase. Define the context of the purchase. I think this is very crucial because when you procure, the other party should know what is the context of this. Because context makes a big difference. Let's say I'm buying very heavy equipment for working conditions in Delhi, where the temperature can shoot up to 42. Other one could be going, let's say Mumbai, the temperature can go up to 34, 35, but humidity is very high. The machines has to expose to different working conditions. A third could be very freezing place around. So you have to tell about in what context this equipment is going to be used. Even if you're buying services. So services also has to be clarified. These services are going to be used in what context around. So have access to all the documents you need. So keep in mind, before you start, understand the whole context, understand the authority and the documents you have. This one is very crucial, I would say to all of you, must remember this. There are three dimensions. Although I'm showing on the two dimension, but basically there are three dimensions. On the x-axis, you see the number of suppliers to contract. The very first one is, should I go to single supplier? Should I go to selected suppliers? Or should I go to the whole world? Open. The word open means I'm opening the Pandora box to everybody. I'm advertising it. Anybody can compete, anybody can bid. Another one is the vertical dimension, the method to be used. Informal, inquiry based, quotation based, or formal tendering, or it could be the e-marketplace. As you know, most of us in our personal life, we use a lot of e-marketplaces. And you're using also e-marketplace for office also many places. So the method to be used could be one, the number of suppliers to be another one. Another comes third dimension, which is shown diagonally, the criteria to evaluate offers. How do you evaluate the offers? Is it based on price? Based on cost? So when I use the term cost, the cost mean not of manufacturing cost, but cost mean total cost of ownership. Somebody gives you wonderful price, good license, licensing fee is very small. You say, I got a software, very good deal. But the customizations, maintaining it, updating the software, that could cost you fortune. So that's where we come the total based on cost, the total cost of ownership. And the last one is based on supplier's capability and motivation. So then we are looking at not on the cost, not on the price, but I'm also looking at the guy may be giving a very low price, but I'm not happy because the supplier is not capable. Or if supplier is capable but not motivated. I want a good combination. The guy is capable and motivated. So you can see around there are three dimensions: number of suppliers to be contacted, method to be used, and criteria to evaluate the offers. So based on the combination of this, you try to decide where to go and how to go. Here I'm just touching up the text on the electronic market. Electronic markets, we all know very well, is another meeting place, not the physical meeting, on a virtual basis. You have e-catalogs, you have e-auction facilities around, payment gateways, shipment codes, customer services, everything on a virtual world. So that is another part which is becoming very visible, very popular. Now, this is another part I want each one of you to remember this. The process of obtaining and selecting offers. So it gives you again 8 steps. But before I go to the 8 steps, on the top line we have supply, targets, and priorities. Those are very important around what are the targets from your organizations around. And what are the priorities from your organization? So it's set at the top level. You position the item. Oh, this item is a low values, this item is a high values, this item is a low risk, this item is a high risk. Keeping that factor in mind, that is 2 by 2 matrix of Peter Krasik, you try to position the item. Then you also analyze the supply market. Now, based on these three combinations, you come down item specific supply strategy. Somebody may ask you guys, what is your supply strategy for this item? Again, one size is not for all. So you have to have a supply strategy for item or any service around, depending on the service, depending on the goods, case to case, it has to be there. And what relationship you want with the supplier. So supply strategy is not only for buying, but also the relationship. What relationship you want? Do you want a long-term relationship? Do you want a short-term relationship? You want a one-time relationship? You want a kind of arm's length relationship? What you want? I mean, that's the way it is there around. So let's come down to the 8 steps. The very first one is identify the criteria for evaluating offers. So you really need to do your homework, how to evaluate, decide on which suppliers to invite. Do you want to call all the suppliers? Do you want to invite pre-qualified suppliers? So you need to define which are the suppliers are. Or you have already a list of suppliers, you only want to invite them. Prepare the invitations to suppliers. So naturally, once you have built up your strategy, then you send the invitation to suppliers. Communicate the invitation to supplier. Receive and evaluate the offers. Now you got the offers, you evaluated them, the next is negotiation. And after negotiation, you will accept and award the contract. But after awarding the contract, maybe 5 or 6 companies have bid their offers. Only one got the offers, but the rest 4, you need to advise and debrief them. Somebody say, why the hell I should waste my time on this? But they should not forget, those companies who lost the business has worked hard to bid for you. So once they're bidding for your company, I think they have a right to ask why they didn't get the contract. If you are ignoring them, the next time they will not be serious about bidding it. So if you want regularly good competitions, then I think it's good to debrief them. The next comes when deciding on how to obtain and select offers, you need to consider. Very first is value of the contract. Contract is of what amount, what size, and complexity also. The degree of supply risk. How much risks are there around? Very high value items, high risk items. Even sometimes it could be small value, but the risk is much bigger. Because without having those items or services, your whole supply chain could get disrupted. You want to avoid the disruptions. So supply risk is very important. You need to minimize administrative cost. Now don't want to go through the bureaucratic process, the labor intensive process. You all know very well, procurement is a very labor intensive. So efforts are being made to make it digital. To make it digital, your job is to cut down the admin cost. If something I have to make POs, I have to do this. If something can be done by system, I could select the item like an Amazon.com experience. I can pick the items, select the items, while on the other side, I get the offers, I make the POs. The process is longer. Administrative costs are much more. So next one comes the process accountability and ethics. Then there is, in each organization, there are processes. There are sometimes you have to comply with the process around. There's an accountability part. So those factors has to be kept in mind before you proceed. And ethics is equally very important around. So this could affect your brand, this could affect your image, this could affect many things around. The need to develop good business relationship with your suppliers. So this is also important, the what type of relationship you want with the suppliers. So this one, as we discussed in the previous one, 4 quadrants. One is the relaxed good routine. I think picture can convey you a lot of message around. Routine means very relaxed, sitting on the beach, low value items. You don't want to waste time there. You want something to be automated there. Let the work move on. If you have got a reorder level fixed up, supplier is fixed up, can we have the POs being generated automatically? So routine means low values, low risk. And low risk means less number of suppliers. The next is leverage. So at the bottom x-axis you find, so the leverage items are the one which are falling under the group of 80% by value. Of all, value mean I'm looking at the value of all the POs. So 80% of the complete value of the POs and 20% of the items. So relatively this is Pareto analysis. If you take the top 20 items, top 20 purchase orders, you will find top 20% purchase order, they will be contributing 80% of the value. So those are the leverage items around. Then come the critical, which you know very well, the bottleneck items. So the bottleneck item means this is crucial. If this item doesn't come up, well, that's a low value, but the risks are very high. If this item doesn't come in time, assembly line could be disrupted. Critical means high values, high risk, and very critical. Without that, again, assembly line could be disrupted. Not many choices are in. Now we will walk through group by group. Let's take the routine item first. So by now you know it. Routine means low values, low risk. So our concern is to minimize time and efforts. So I should not be spending same time as I do for the critical item. For critical item, I may spend more time, but for routine item, it could be less time. So my concern is to minimum time and efforts. If you look at the bottom table, the number of suppliers are 1. We are not going to think of many suppliers, only 1 supplier or 2 suppliers maximum. And the relationship is minimum intervention. I want a relationship which does not require frequent follow-up. So low value item, you don't want to spend your time, energy on something which is not contributing much. The type of contract. You'll make one-time long-term contract. And the type of supplier which is going to fit for the routine item, every supplier doesn't fit for everything. So the very first, able to supply as many of the buyer's requirement as possible, responsive, therefore minimizing the need for intervention, will continue to supply the required products for the longer term. So that's what we're looking around, a supplier who can ensure continuity around. So this is where you see on the right small icon around. The guy is struggling with papers, low values. The papers are piling up. So the guy is sweating, you can see around. So basically at the bottom you put X. We want to cut this, automate the process, minimize the problems. That's what it means. Now the approach to obtaining and selecting offers. The very first one is minimize efforts. Simple informal approaches. So coming back to the basis for evaluations. So you want to cut down the admin costs. You can offer a fixed term contract for the whole year. You could use e-commerce. You could consolidate billing. Instead of buying 10 times or 15 times, you could tell them, guys, could you send us one billing? You could make use of P cards. So P card is another way around. I'm buying a small value item of 2000 rupees today, the next day of 5000, third day of 10,000. Instead of having each invoices coming to my accounts, I could get all the invoices for the whole month in one statement. Somebody could certify it and pay one payment. Instead of making 20 payments around in a month, I make it one payment. So you want consolidation of billing around. And the number of suppliers you want to invite must be very small, competent, customer oriented suppliers. So keep in mind, we don't want to call the whole thing around, just few numbers. And then you pick up one to place an order. Now leverage items. So again, understand what does it means. It means high values, low risk. That's why in the icon you can see the guy is hammering on the dollar. That means he's trying to make more and more savings, as much I can. So focus is to reduce the cost. Now again here we put down 5 scenarios. The first scenario is very high switching cost, low price variability and negligible switching cost. Case 3 is the low price variability, relatively high switching cost, high price variability, low switching cost. And the last is high price variability. The price could vary from one supplier to another in a big way, but high switching cost. If it is switching, if you look at the case 1, very high switching cost. I have a supplier. The guy has got all the toolings. Now when I want to change it, first thing is number of suppliers is 1. Now changing is not easy, very high switching cost. Then I'll say, okay, let me stick on with 1. But if you look at the case 2, the negligible switching cost. If I'm not happy with one supplier, another one has come up in the market who's able to deliver me at a much better price, then obviously I can go with many. So the number of suppliers is much bigger. The pool is bigger. Same way now the third one comes again, high switching cost. The price is not varying so much, but the high switching cost, I stick with 1. But both high variability and low switching cost, the switching cost is not much. The tooling required again can be done quickly. The cost involved is not very high. But the price is varying a lot, high price variability. So when it is a high price variability, the number of suppliers will be many. And the last case, the last column, certainly the high price variability. Switching costs also high, but I could have 2 to 3 suppliers around. So the type of contract, now in the very first one, we will make a very short term, maybe 6 months, 8 months. High switching cost, the term contract would be there, typically long term, he says. Long term mean more than 12 months then. Case 2 is a spot. Like you and me buy the spot buying. Then we have got low term, low price variability, relatively high switching cost. And then the next one is again the spot, case 4. Case 5 is the one where we could have the term contracts. That's where it's around. The type of suppliers. If I'm making a selection for the case 1, I'll go with the lowest cost. Case 2, lowest cost. So case lowest cost today, the lowest cost over contract terms. It is not the price today, but over the whole term of 6 months, 8 months, I want this price to be lowest. Lowest cost today again, and the lowest cost over the contract terms. Relationship. Case 1, you like to have a cooperative arrangements and will not exploit anybody's dominant position. If buyer is dominating or supplier dominating, nobody will like to spoil the conditions around. Arm's length. So here the relationship is arm's length. But again, case 3 is also arm's length, but the buyer is dominant. So buyer is more dominant, while in the case of case 2, supplier is dominant. Case 4, I won't say who's dominant, but we like to keep at arm's length around. And case 5 is cooperative around. Approach to obtaining and selecting offers. Now, when it comes to approach, the very first approach is inquiry or quotation. As the term indicates, inquiry and quotation, it's seeking very informal process. So guys, okay, you'll go on the email, you'll go on the phone. Oh, can you send me the price? I want to buy this 25 chairs. Can you send me the price for this? I want to get some standard software. Can you tell me the price for this? I want 20 sets of Microsoft Office. So what is the price for this? So that's the way you inquire around. But the basis for evaluation is it's an informal process. We go with the lowest price and lowest cost. But if you're thinking for a long-term relationship, you need to really evaluate the capability and motivation. So capability is equally important and motivation is also important. Next comes number of suppliers to invite. You want competitions. So that's also has to be kept in mind. More the suppliers, does it really help us? So there are different thoughts on this, but we could discuss later. Bottleneck items. This is low values and high risk. So your main concern is to reduce risk. Since the risk is high, you want to reduce the risk. Supply strategy for continuous bottleneck item. Number of suppliers in the bottleneck. First thing is the bottleneck means you have limited supplier. So you will have one, possibly two. So here you would like to be a good customer. This item is bottleneck for you. You have only one choice, or maximum two choice. So as a buyer, you want to be a good customer. You don't want to lose them. Because your situation could become worse if for those bottleneck items you lose the supplier for a significant period. That's what I told you. So term contracts could be for a little longer time. Now, the next one is the type of suppliers. Must be particularly capable in the areas in which they pose the greatest risk to your company. Will not exploit strong bargaining position with your company and will continue to supply the required products for the long term. Now, under this category, approach to obtaining and selecting offers. When you're doing quotation process, you ask for key information and let the supplier choose format. Now, the basis for evaluation, as risk is more important than cost, review supplier's capability and level of motivation. Now, number of suppliers to invite. So we are here saying invite a limited number of recognized and qualified suppliers. The last one here is critical items. Now here what we say is high values high risk. So the value is high, risk is high, so naturally this needs much more attention. Now, supply strategy for the continuous critical item: number of suppliers 1, number of relationship is partnership, and number of contracts, the type of contract would be long-term partnership contract. So critical items, you would like to make long-term contracts around. Now the next comes the type of supplier. So when we talk of a type of supplier, must be particularly capable in the areas which pose the greatest risk to your company. Must have the ability to be a very low cost provider. Your required product and services must be core business. The supplier must be financially stable. It must not have preferential relationship with any of your supplier company's competitor. So it should not seek to exploit your company's position. So that's where it comes in. The next one comes approach to obtaining and selecting offers around. So under the same broad heading, inquiry, quotations or tendering, basis for evaluations. So when you're trying to evaluate level of risk, cost saving potential, long-term capability and commitments, an in-depth evaluation is necessary. So the number of suppliers in this business would be as many suppliers as possible. If complex project, invite them in stages. Now this shows you the summarized form of all those 4 boxes. So item may be falling under one group, second group. So that you can do again spend management as you know it. You know the spend for each item. You know the spend by category. You can put them based on the software what area they belong to. Now here we have, if you look at the routine one, I can just tell you, for simple, the informal process. So evaluation based on capability of the supplier, reduce your administrative cost, invite small number of suppliers. So this gives you the whole summary what I have covered up earlier. The method of procurement, how formal should be? Should I become very formal? The degree to which formation is recorded in written form, the level of strategy of controls, and then options are informal approach, inquiry quotation approach, and the last is formal tendering. The informal process, you are asking for quotations by phone, and then you follow up in writing, asking for invoices and all those things. So you place orders online at supplier's website. These are used for, this informal approach is used for low values, low risk purchases involving a high administrative cost, emergency requirement as well. Now here we talked about the informal approach again, the features. So both sides are knowing, offerer and offerer, that they trust each other. The minimum efforts and no process delay. Generally, a maximum value is set depending on the size of the company, the nature of the business, the amount of trust the company has in its staff. The inquiry quotation approach is an in-between approach. Now here we got limited number of pre-selected suppliers. Written are electronic inquiries inviting them to offer. Offers are evaluated and supplier selection is documented and signed by relevant person. Now in this case, the decision may be autonomous and with IT control number 2. Then comes inquiry quotation approach. Now this procedure is appropriate when purchase is sufficiently complex around. So here I'm looking around, not everything agreed verbally can be remembered. Products are not standards and different options need to be evaluated carefully and compared. The level of expenditure is higher and the cost of evaluating multiple offers will be outweigh the advantages. So we follow the inquiry quotation approach, particularly when it is very complex, otherwise the cost could go up. Here comes the formal tendering. So the formal tendering is the one which is used by mostly in the governments, public sectors, very formal. So you have control on communication, what to communicate, when to open the offers. So I would say in the private sector, very rarely this is used around. It's costly, complex, and time consuming. Now, the formal tendering, there are variants around. The very first one is open tendering. Open means you happen to say, okay, guys, we are going to buy so and so subjects. We're going to buy this service. We are going to buy this goods. And the date for receipt of tender is so and so date. So the date is fixed. And the date is fixed means then any supplier who feels they are eligible, they start offering it. That's what we call open tendering. So this is open to all. Then come the restricted tendering. So in the restricted tendering mean it is not open to all. Only limited number of appraised or pre-qualified suppliers are invited. The third approach is two-stage tendering. You have got very complex specs around. Let's say you're thinking of implementing ERP. Some of you may not even know how to write even the specs of an ERP. You can't finalize it. So in those situations, you will go back in the first stage to collect information, which you might be remembering RFI, request for informations. You collect the informations, understand it. Based on that, you make your own requirements around. And then once you have made the requirement, then you see of the offers. So it becomes double. The features in open tendering is advertised widely. You cannot just put down, call 10 names. It has to be advertised. It has to be open to all. All bids are evaluated, opens up the maximum level of competitions. These are very good, but straightforward and easy to specify. Some item you're buying as a commodity, standard items around. Many potential suppliers openly compete with each other. The cost of process is less than the benefits. The price is most significant evaluation criteria. You're going for open because the price is the key factor for you. The driving factor is the price. That's why you're telling the whole world, guys, come and bid for it. And the one who gives you the lowest price, they get the contract. Now, do not use it when the nature of the requirement is highly specialized. And experience of the supplier is very important around. You're dealing with something which is very critical from safety angle, from health angle, from cost angle, running cost angle. So you would like to deal with only those suppliers who have similar experience around. Now the stages in tendering process. The very first one is develop a plan for tendering process. Define the basis for tender evaluation. So very first thing is, what is this tendering process? What item am I going to buy around? So you develop the whole plan. Who will do it? When will it be done? Define the minimum criteria for opening out the suppliers from being invited. The next one come prepare the invitations to tender package. Appoint the tender committees around. Advertise the requirements. Ensure the suitability of those suppliers which are expressing their interest in tendering. If someone says, guys, I want to deal with it, I want to take care of your process, business process engineering consultancy, you need to encourage them. Issue the invitation to tender documents. Confirm receipt by suppliers. Then clarify the invitations. Deal with any request. Receive and reject any non-compliance. So this is also part of the process around. Then the next one comes evaluate the tenders. Clarify these with corresponding suppliers if necessary. Undertake post-tender negotiation. So you've done the whole tendering process. Now after the tendering process, you want to do the negotiation and then award the contract. And lastly, I would say not it's very important, I would say around debrief unsuccessful supplier. Here comes very interesting this e-auction. E-auction is becoming very important around. I would say it's a wonderful tool. I will call it the new frontier of procurements. Many companies are moving into this. And when I look around in India, there are many small companies have come up who can do e-auction for you and they charge you per event. So this is really moving very fast. Auction is, I'm sure as you know it, when you go and buy some painting or something or a house, you participate in the auction. The guy who gives the highest bid gets the contract. But here it is the other way around. It's a reverse auction. So it's not the forward auction, it's the reverse auction. So forward is more like a marketing. Reverse means the other side of the coin. So when we talk of reverse, the guy who gives me the lowest price gets a contract. So this is how this is structured on the electronic market, where a seller can put his goods on services online, and then many people online comes and buys it. Reverse auction, as I told you, is a structured way to procure something. And even people are not buying only goods, but people are buying even complex services. I met one guy who told me they buy even the legal services through reverse auction. What exactly you need is if you can define the services, even of legal, in a very structured way, more like a commodity, in a very clear deliverable format. If output is defined very clearly, the company which are participating are pre-qualified. It's a wonderful tool around. So reverse auction can help you in big way. Now here comes, you want to evaluate the possibility suppliers offer. So we said around suppliers offers are there. One could be the lowest price, which we all know. Out of 5 offers, this is the lowest one, but technically they all meet my expectation. I give the contract the lowest price. Second one is lowest total cost of ownership. Here, I'm not going with the price of the goods as it is, but the combination of all the costs. Let's say I'm buying vehicle, or 2 offers I have got around. One offer may be X price, let's say we're talking around 8 lakhs. Other one is costing me 10 lakhs. But one is giving me the total cost of ownership much lower. So that's what need to be looked into, this lowest total cost of ownership. That means my vehicle which I'm buying, the price is maybe higher or even lower, but then I have to look around the operational cost, the maintenance cost. So if I combine the maintenance cost, the operation cost, my upfront cost, the total cost of ownership comes up. So this is very used commonly for capital items around. The next is weighted scoring. Under the weighted scoring, I've got the scorecard, I've got the criteria, I've got the weight, then how much each one get the score. Then once I know the score, then I combine it and then I say, okay. Scoring is another way. The last is value judgment. So the value judgment means, this is where to find whether I'm getting value or not. TCO concept. So here we are looking at the purchase cost, operating cost, preventive maintenance cost, repair cost, cost of disposal, capital cost, and other costs could be insurance, and then on other consideration for output levels, this could vary around. So the TCO concept, I would put it, is very, very relevant for capital goods. If you're buying non-capital item, then this may not be cost effective around. Here comes the same example I'm trying to show up. Now this one shows you the importance of the timing of the cost around. Different supplier offers are likely to result in different levels and parameters. If you look at the bottom table, supplier X and supplier Y, the final amount is same, total cost. But their prices, if you look at the year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, all are different. So under the year 1, you can see supplier X is saying, I will pay 60,000. So other one is 80,000. But if you look at the cost which is happening on year 2, year 3, year 4, all cumulative is 90,000, both cases. X and Y both are costing you 90,000, 80,000. But keep in mind, the money flow which is outflow is in different time of the year. So if I look at year 2, one is making 5,000, other one is making 3,000. Year 3, 20,000 and 3,000. So the money which is flowing out is on different period, different timings. That's what need to be looked into. So the cost which is coming up. So you have taken a case, let's say 8% is a discount rate. When I say 8% discount rate, that means if today I have the money, let's say 100 rupees. After 1 year, 100 becomes 108 in the bank. Or what I could say, if next year I make 108, that 100 is as good as 100 today. So that's what I'm trying to say around is, you need to look at that. So somebody has developed this percentage, as I said to you, if it's 8%, I have to do is nothing but 100 divided by 108. So this percentage will come up. So the net present value in both the cases is different. Upfront price was all were looking 9, but when I look at the net present values, they are different. Okay. Now the weighted scoring models. Now here we got is scoring each and every criteria and their relative importance around. The supplier with the highest overall score is awarded the contract. Cost is treated in the same way as other criteria. Now if the supplier with the highest overall score is not the lowest order, you may be tempted to ignore the scores and select the lowest cost supplier anyway. Now here it says the supplier must be selected on the overall assessment of many relevant criteria. This one I think we have discussed already. Performance is equal to capability multiplied by motivations. So your performance, you can see very well, you may hire somebody wonderfully capable person but not interested to do the work. Capability is nothing but combination of this. Now evaluate the supplier's capability, and the other one star is supplier interest and potential commitments. Now come the scoring motivations. Now in scoring motivations, obviously the two things always attracts. Value of the business. Is it high enough? Is it worth doing the business? Is it worth following this around? So the proportion of your company's business represents in relation to supplier sales turnover. If sales turnover is 100 millions, your share is only 0.5 millions, your value of the business is very small. So the value of business of yours is very small part, maybe 0.5 million out of 100. Your value is not very impressive to them. But the level of attractiveness, so this is where we need to look around, is the level of attractiveness. Your company payments are very good. Your business side may be smaller, but attractiveness is there. You're culturally very closer to each other. Ease of doing business is very, the relationships are very good. Level of trust is there. And perceived image to the suppliers being associated with your firm. So that perception that I'm working for so and so company, that perception also makes you. So attractiveness is one thing, value of business is another one. So these two elements put together becomes your scoring for the motivation. Now the perception model, as you can see, on the x-axis is value for business. The y is level for attractiveness. So it starts from negligible, becomes very low, medium and high. So companies E, C, F, they're coming under low motivation group, while company A is coming under the medium. Company B and D, they are on the borderline between H and M. So they are the one who are coming in that. The value judgment, in the previous method we looked around was, I go with either combination of the two, scoring around, and then I see the cost is part of it, technical is part of it. So who gets the maximum score, they get it. But here what we're doing is the weighted score is important, but the price is also important. Should I give more preference to wide price, or should I give more preference to weighted score around? So this compares the weighted non-cost aspects of the offer against the cost of the offers. So at the end of the day, it is all the judgment. Which combination represents the best value? So this is where we call value judgment. So you would say, okay guys, should I go with the price, or should I go with the combination of the two? So, but the two are two sides of the pendulum. Now methods and depth of evaluations in the context of supply positioning model. So you can see the supply positioning model. So in the box which is in the lowest quadrant, the one which is low risk, low price, lowest price is the focus. Then we got the high price, high cost, low risk, lowest total cost of ownership, TCO is the focus. Then the top you can see the weighted scoring on the bottleneck side, and the value judgment is based on TCOs. That is the one with the critical item. So that's how, as the expenditure goes up and as the risk goes up, the weighted scoring becomes very popular. This is a very crucial thing. How many suppliers to invite? How much time you have? And how much you can afford to spend on the process? Time and communication cost. See whether you can spend so much time. You don't want to struggle in the icon. You can see the guy struggling with looking at so many papers around. You need to be very clear which type of suppliers to invite. Let's say in the case of routine, I need only one supplier. Leverage, I need more. Critical also, I need more. This is the area you need to define around where do I need more. Or in the case of bottleneck, I'm looking for some supplier who can remove my bottleneck to become more like a routine item. So that's what we need to work on this. How much time you have, how much you can spend on this, afford to spend on the process, because this process is time and communication cost, both are very important. So you may get single supplier, selected supplier, open combinations. So here you can see on the lower end side is one or two invitations. More it becomes complex, More the risk increases, the larger number of invitations. Because the money involved is very high, the number of risk is very high, you move into that largest number of invitations. So that's what it means around. Now going to a few suppliers. In the private sector, certainly we focus a lot on rationalizations. The most common approach in the private sector, then we choose from an approved or accredited list. The degree of effort depends on value and risk. So that factor you have to keep in mind. Now going for open competition, you can see so many players around on the icon. The process is costly. Costly because of the process plus evaluation cost and time consuming. One should only do this when the costs and risk are very high, when you have a limited knowledge of the market, or when switching costs are higher. Then comes which suppliers to approach. So sources of informations, you very well know. I can go to trade and industry association, I can go to chambers of commerce, I can go to exhibitions, I can go to purchasing association, I can also go to social media, ask information from my other colleagues around. But the risks which are there around, which you need to be very careful, collusion, collusion, collusion. Some among suppliers introduce new suppliers, supplier with conflict of interest. You need to exclude them, and how to identify those. That's a big question around how to do it. Process of obtaining and selecting offers. First thing is, obviously you need to make the invitation to offer. So your offer is ready, the invitation is ready. Communicate your invitation to suppliers. Receive the offers, evaluate the offers, negotiate it, accept the offers, and award the contract. Inform and debrief unsuccessful bidder. Next comes the financial evaluation. So undertaking the financial evaluations, purchase price, cost of installations, maintenance. Check conversion rates of different currency. You have to keep in mind the currency rates could be different from country to country. One need to work it out. So identify the cost implication of payment conditions, but you also want to see if there's any hidden costs around. Now the next comes deal with abnormally low bids. This happens very oftenly. Some suppliers will come and bid very low, intentionally, either to spoil the whole competitions or to get 1 feet into your business. But the moment they get 1 feet into the business, then they start stopping the work and again requesting for increase for whatever reasons around. So it has to understand, it is not a, reasons could be many. Somebody is giving you low price, sometime intentional, the way I told you. But sometimes they have not understood the requirements around. It is unscrupulous and will later cut corners. It intends to make its real profit in later deliveries. It wishes to enter a new market. When it comes to financial evaluations, is it comparable to the prices paid earlier? So you have to check around the prices what I paid last time. Is it comparable? Is it in line with the published prices? Our industry that can be used to construct a reference. In line with the knowledge of the market conditions. You know very well supply demand, the demand has gone down. So keeping that knowledge in market condition, the price should go down. But if it's the other way around, the demand has picked up, but supply is limited, so the prices may go turn up, shoot up. Then question also comes up when you're thinking of particularly capital item. This may also come up, guys. Okay, we've done the evaluation. Next question comes, whether should I buy it or should I lease it? So some people may like to lease it because they feel that money is saved and I can use this money for operational cost then. So they don't have to block the money for capital items. So this is how this whole thing works on. So obtaining and selecting. But the journey still goes on. But my friends, if you have any questions, any clarifications, I'm there